Welcome to Madden on the Line, presented by Crosscheck Media, Biz Talk Today TV. I'm Jo Madden, and if there's money on the board, you know we're paying attention. What a weekend of madness, you guys. The field went from 64 to 32, and now we reset and wait for Thursday and the Sweet 16. The tournament, it began with historic dominance out there by the favorites, who went 16-0 straight up in Friday's round. Betting favorites dominated the first two rounds, you guys, 40-12 straight up through the first weekend. The opening rounds were chalky to say the least, breaking records of 22 straight wins by a favorite from Thursday to Saturday. It was absolutely crazy, but we did see the upsets out there. The upsets came yesterday. Number 9 seed Iowa taking down the defending champs in the number 1 seed of Florida. That was a 73-72 crazy tight game there. Talk about craziness as well. You look at the first four in team in Texas, the number 11 seed. They made it out of the first round, made it out of the second round as well with the win over the number 3 team in Gonzaga there, 74-68. I tell you, Texas, we talked with Coach James Young last week, and he said that was a team to watch out for, and they've proven that they can get there, getting to the Sweet 16. So now it's time to catch our breath, you guys. As the chaos settles, the matchups will tighten up, and it becomes about who can actually make a run. Today, we're breaking down Sweet 16 best bets, and we will be live on Thursday again before these games tip off, but this is what we're looking at for the numbers as of today, where the shockers will come from, where the market is adjusting. Plus, we're going to look at NBA, NHL, and MLB futures with the opening day right around the corner, you guys. We do have one game on Wednesday and then a loaded slate on Thursday. So joining me today, I will have Jo Lisi from SportsGrid. But first, let's get into what's moving right now. So money movers, we always start the show with this, you guys, and this is my favorite segment of the show, getting into where the market is moving. Right now, your number one overall money mover is the Sweet 16 market really tightening. So there's fewer teams and there's sharper numbers out there. You've got less of a public edge when you look at it. The chaos is gone, and now it's about the matchups and the numbers. This is where the spread gets tighter and the value, it is harder to find. Now, the number 2 money movers is a public overreaction in what they saw this weekend. Teams that dominated early in the first round, they're going to get inflated here. And we're seeing this in these lines. Favorites are getting steamed up. The market is pricing out what just happened and not what they're looking for in that next round. So the value starts to show on the dogs, you guys. Definitely something to remember looking at the Sweet 16 matchups. Also, in the NBA, what's moving the money out there? Late season motivation, right? You're looking at playoff positioning, driving the line movement, taking teams that are looking to be contenders and teams that are looking to tank out there for those draft picks. In the NBA, it's all about motivation at this time of year. Teams are fighting for that seeding and where they're going to place in the playoffs. And that's exactly where we need to look at those differences. Now, your fourth money mover of the day is really in the NHL, the playoff push. You've got bubble teams out there. You've got teams that are looking for those wild card spots. And we're going to get into one of those teams at the end of the show when I give you my best bet for the NHL. It's a light slate today. We got a loaded one tomorrow, but definitely you want to look at those teams chasing those wild card spots, how they've done as of late. Those goalie confirmations coming late are moving lines. We're seeing a little bit in that matchup tonight. So definitely sharper numbers as we roll into the playoffs. And then the MLB future market opening day is on Wednesday. We got one game there. Money is entering the market. You want to get in your favorites now before you see those first couple of games play out. So public is moving in on some public favorites out there. So we are seeing that. And then the totals are adjusting across the board. This is your money mover number 6. In the NCAA, totals are tightening up. The NHL totals are completely reacting to the goalies out there. And in the NBA, we're seeing those totals fluctuate because of pace, because of injuries. But you got to remember how important defense is this time of year in the NBA for those teams, for those seeds, and what we're going to see, some lower scoring games out there. So that's what's moving in the markets out there. That's where we're starting to see value. We're going to follow the money, not the noise. Always remember that. Now we're going to bring in my guest today, Jo Lisi of SportsGrid. It's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. Jo, welcome to the show.
How are you, Jo? Always a pleasure. Congrats on the new show. We got college basketball, NHL to your point, and we have the NFL draft hitting up in about a month, so hopefully we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot to talk about. Firstly, I want to get your reactions. This weekend, March Madness, what was the biggest shocker in your opinion? Was it Florida going out?
Well, yeah, when you see a number 9 seed in Iowa, McCollum, right, making the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999, and a defending national champion go down in the Florida Gators in the round of 32, that was the upset, right? 9.5, 10-point underdog. They win it outright, 73-72. I mean, just an upset special. But then how about the game between Kansas and St. John's? Rick Pitino and St. John's has a 14-point lead with about 8 minutes left. They blow it and then get the buzzer beater right at the end to move on to face Duke. That was the game for me. But some of these teams right now, Jo, are hitting on all cylinders, and that includes the Alabama Crimson Tide that throttled Texas Tech last night.
They absolutely did. Now, with that throttling out there, do you think there's an overreaction in that game for Thursday?
Well, they're going up right now. They're 10.5-point underdogs going up against Michigan, and my heart is always with the underdogs to potentially make an upset. What we saw with Iowa against Florida, but they live and die solely on the 3, and they were hitting on all cylinders last night. They built a 26-point first half lead. Can that continue against one of the best defensive teams in the nation in Michigan? You saw what they were able to do against St. Louis, shutting down the Billikens. They shut down Avila. They shut down the 3-point shot by St. Louis on Saturday afternoon. I have a feeling they're going to do the same thing to Alabama. Alabama, to me, is more of a finesse team. They live and die solely on the 3 in the round is 16 with 16 teams left. I'll go with the better, more complete team. I think Michigan dominates and covers the 10.5-point number.
Yeah, I like where you're going there with Michigan. Looking at the rest of the games in the Sweet 16 on Thursday, what other game really stands out to you, Jo?
Well, Thursday to me, that Texas team. Now, you look at Texas. Should they have been in the tournament? They get the play-in game against NC State. They goes right down to the wire. They win it 68-66. They then knock off BYU, and then they knock off Gonzaga. Now, I understand Gonzaga technically not at 100%, but they have played very close games up until this point. I like that recipe. They're underdogs again against a better team in Purdue, but I think they could play with them. I don't know if they win the game outright, Jo, but I'm willing to take the points with the Longhorns in this spot.
Yeah, you guys are coming in as a 6.5-point dog in that matchup. We got a total of 148.5, Jo. And that total does stand out to me as well. Looking a tad too high. What are your thoughts at Sweet 16 point in these games for the totals?
So as they inch closer, right, to the Elite Eight and obviously the Final Four, I think these games are going to get a lot tighter, right? When they see the writing on the wall and can sense the light at the end of the tunnel, I think it becomes more of a defensive-minded game, especially in the second half of games, right? If we're talking totals, I'd be much more apt to maybe play a first half over as opposed to a regular total at the pre-tip. I'd much rather play it from an in-game perspective, but I'm with you. In the round of 16, Sweet 16, Elite 8, I'm inclined to take more unders than I am overs. The only over I do like, though, is that game, Arizona and Arkansas. I just don't see how that game goes under. Both teams want to push a little bit of tempo. I can't go under that total in these round of 16.
Now, Jo, I do have Arizona going all the way. They are my national champ there, but do you see any recipe for Arkansas pulling off the upset here in the Sweet 16? Because they've impressed me so far in the tournament. They've played a lot stronger than I expected.
They have, right? They win the SEC tournament, And again, when they can run in transition and the first team to 90, they want to play that type of style. But I love what Coach Cal has done. He's got them prepared. They were a Sweet 16 team last year. They couldn't get past this round. I think they're more battle tested. I love the kid Trayvon Brazil. They're catching 8.5 points. I know Arizona potentially is the most complete team in the country, but you want to give me Cal plus 8.5 plus 9 points in this matchup. I'm willing to take the SEC champion in this spot. I know things will have to go potentially or 100% their way, but I'll take the 8.5. I would actually take them on the money line. I think if there's any team right now that can knock off Arizona, I'll take my shot with the Hogs.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of points there. Plus the 8.5 money line is a great price as well. So like where you're going. So looking at the national champion odds right now, Duke is the clear favorite at plus 420 with Arizona. Actually, Arizona's moved to that favorite at plus 330, pardon me. But looking at Duke, they struggled versus Siena. They were lucky to be able to get the win. The final score in their game on Sunday versus TCU, I don't think it was a clear indication of how that game actually played out. What did you think of Duke?
Again, if it's not just the tournament, let's go to the ACC tournament, right? They got pushed by Florida State. They won it right at the end. They went toe-to-toe with Virginia. They grinded out that victory, but certainly didn't dominate. And they're playing down to the level of competition. To your point, it was basically a 4-point game at half. I think they were leading 38-34. It was tied, and they trailed slightly for a couple of minutes against the Horned Frogs. I mean, St. John's has been battle-tested. They have led for a majority of their games in the NCAA tournament, and they're a team that I think actually matches up very well against Duke. I don't know if they win it, Joe, but 6.5 points with St. John's, I can't pass it up. With Pitino playing this team, they're in the Sweet 16 for the first time for over 25 years. I'll take the Johnnies with the points against the Duke Blue Devils. I do not like how Duke is not extending and not dominating these games. When you look at the just national championship market, I would much rather go with Michigan or even UConn or some of the other deeper teams in the round of 16 over Duke right now.
I love where you're going with that. So if you're looking at Final Four or national championship odds right now, Joe, where should people be putting their money?
Well, I did pick Arkansas as one of my Final Four. I'll take a shot. I know they're significant underdogs, but I like their style. I like Cal. Again, I can't go against Michigan right now, Joe, just because of how dominant they have played. That was a very impressive win against St. Louis. Again, I know St. Louis wasn't a household name, but they dominated in round number 1. I actually thought they posed a problem for Michigan in the round of 32. For them to win that basically by 22 points was a dominating win. I think Michigan right now is the best team in the round of 16. I would lean a little to UConn should they match up with St. John's down the road. It's very difficult to beat a team 3 times in a year. I like the way Hurley and that team dominated against UCLA last night, so I'll take a shot with UConn as well.
Yeah, I like what we saw out of UConn. They had some adversity to get over after that first half, right? With the foul trouble they got themselves into, but they look so strong in that second. So they should roll with some great momentum. Let's turn to the NBA. We know we're in the push here for the playoffs. What are you seeing in the NBA? Is there any team that's really standing out to you, Joe?
Not really. I mean, for me, it's still the Celtics. I'll take a shot with Boston. I think they're battle tested. I mean, when you look at the West, Joe, I mean, OKC is there. I would love to buy into Joker in Denver, but every time I think they're going to just extend and dominate, they play down to the level of competition. But I can't go with the favorites in the NBA. To me, I would take deep shots and hoping for the upset. And if the Knicks get there, it would be great for New York, but we'll see if time will tell. I'm locked into college basketball. NBA, not so much. I'll dive in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. As we go down the stretch here in the NBA, that's where you guys really want to start looking at those teams that need those wins out there. The NHL, we know we're making a big push right now, but MLB is starting here on a Wednesday. Do you dive into the future market at all in the MLB?
So no, I don't dive into the future market. I do it in season, right? And I did it for years with Carver. But I'll tell you what I do. I play the totals after about a month in the regular season. I wait for the month of April to play out, and then I'm heavily involved in the totals for Major League Baseball. So I dive in. I love the alt market. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not like totals for college football or NFL for that matter. When they blow through the totals, they have the ability to just extend, and that's where the plus money is. So I play Major League Baseball. I look for totals. I look for pitchers with high ERAs, high whips, and then I play those strategically throughout the market, throughout June and July, and look to capitalize on before football season.
Okay. And as you talk football season, the draft, you said it, it's right around the corner here. Mendoza to the Raiders looks like a guarantee. Anyone else that you can see slipping into that number one spot, or is it just done deal here with Mendoza?
I think it's a done deal with Mendoza. I will say the only way, he doesn't become the number one overall pick is if Las Vegas potentially gets a blockbuster deal to get a veteran quarterback and to start maybe with Kubiak in year number one. I don't see that happening. I think all the moves will take place potentially from 3 to 5. Keep an eye out for Jeremiah Love. We talked about the mock drafts, Joe, and where Jeremiah Love potentially could fit. I think there's no doubt he's on the New York Giants' radar. I think he'll be there at number 5 overall. When you see market movement and you see some of the players that potentially could be slated, David Bailey from Texas Tech, I think is the best pure edge rusher in this draft. We'll see if he could go higher than Orville Reese, the linebacker out of Ohio State. But Tennessee sitting at 4 has a very interesting option. Do they take Jeremiah Love, or do they take an elite wide receiver in Cornell Tate? I think that's important when you look at the progression for Cam Ward. That's very important in terms of his second year. Robert Saleh and obviously Brian Dable, the new offensive coordinator, want to surround Cam Ward with the most talent to make an assessment whether he's that guy. Cornell Tate, potentially at number 4 overall, could be the one that breaks up all of the prop markets for the NFL draft.
Yeah, you got to absolutely love what Tate was able to do in college. And I think he comes out nice and strong in the NFL. So whoever gets him is going to be lucky. Joe, I want to quickly touch on the Max Crosby situation, everything that happened with the Baltimore Ravens, because I know you live and breathe this. Was it just because the Ravens realized the injury was as bad, or do you think it was something else?
Oh, I think it was a business decision as well. When they looked at it and saw that they could get potentially Trey Hendrickson cheaper, they made a business deal. And again, I don't think they weren't all in Max Crosby. I think that money matters, and I think that when you look at the NFL, they made that assessment. Hey, can we get a similar type of player for a cheaper amount in draft capital? And they decided to pull the trigger. Was it the most ethical thing to do, Joe? No, it wasn't. But we know that we've seen this time and time again, that the NFL is a complete business. It's a bottom line type of situation where, hey, they made a decision to save draft capital. And at the end of the day, it didn't make Max Crosby happy. But again, Max Crosby is still a commodity. And I'll say this, we talked about it today. Las Vegas, if they could keep Max Crosby there, they then all of a sudden have the potential to elevate to the next level and maybe have a foundation where they could be playoff competitive in just 2 years. I know that the mindset is to ship Max Crosby off for as much as draft capital as they can acquire to build up this team. But if he could stay with Clint Kubiak and a new offense and defensive staff, there's the potential to grow with the new head coach and now Fernando Mendoza. He could be the backbone to that team and obviously a leader for the Las Vegas organization moving forward. It's just how soured is Max Crosby on Mark Davis and that organization based off of last year. So I would still say it's at least 60-40 Max Crosby stays in Las Vegas, Joe.
I would love to see him stay in Vegas. He just seems like he represents everything the Las Vegas Raiders stand for. So I hope he does stay there. It's a loaded division. What are your thoughts on Kansas City? Do you think Mahomes is going to be ready to start the season? And what do you think of their pickups here before the draft?
Well, I love what they did for Kenneth Walker. I didn't think Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt were elite running back talent. That was a weakness of this team. Pat Mahomes, for much of the month of September, early October, was the leading rusher for Kansas City. So that automatically elevates Kansas City moving forward to be much better and more consistent in the rushing attack. Do I believe Pat Mahomes will be ready week number one? It's a 50-50 deal because you're talking about the best quarterback potentially in the NFL. If you rush him sooner rather than later, you might lose him for the rest of the regular season. You cannot afford that. They have Justin Fields in the lineup now and on the roster. Is Justin Fields elite? No, but he is a winner in the sense he was 4-2 with the Pittsburgh Steelers prior to coming to the New York Jets. With that type of talent around him in Kansas City, if he has to play a month or 3 games in the month of September, he could potentially lead them to a 2-1, 3-0 record. I mean, you can't say it's out of the realm of possibility. So do I think they're better this year than I think they were last year? We'll see. I think they're much better in the play calling department. I do believe that Eric Bieniemy was a better offensive coordinator than Matt Nagy. He comes back home. We'll see if Mahomes can elevate his game back to the Super Bowl. But clearly, they're going to be one of the teams to challenge in the AFC. I still think Denver is the team to beat, though, in the AFC West, Joe.
Yeah, Denver, the Broncos should come out nice and strong. And I love your take there on Justin Fields. He was so strong with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And we saw Sam Darnold overcome what the Jets put him through. So hopefully Justin Fields can do the same. But Joe, absolute pleasure having you join me here on Madden on the Line. I want to thank you for your time. Everyone can catch you all over SportsGrid, but where else can they find you?
They can find me with Carver and Lisi. We're still doing the show online, so love the show that we do. We have March Madness. We cover it all, and then obviously get ready for the upcoming draft and then baseball on the horizon. So nothing better. Great opportunity to talk to you and love the show.
Absolutely, Joe. Appreciate your time today. Keep crushing it. Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, that was Jo Lisi. Make sure you go over and give him a follow. As you can tell, complete wealth of information out there across all sports. So let's jump into a couple more angles I wanted to look at here in Sweet 16, in betting the Sweet 16. And then we're going to get to my card for the day, my leans for the day, everything that you want to jump on. So Sweet 16 betting angles, you want to look at the dogs in these tight games, you guys. These games are going to tighten up out there. Points are going to come more, they're going to be harder to come by the points. So when we look at Texas versus Purdue, Joe was on it too. Texas plus the 6.5 versus Purdue in a game that's going to be a back and forth battle, I think is a really strong way to look. You want to look to fade those dominant teams in round 1 and round 2 because people are going to see what they were able to do. Those big wins out there, like when we saw Arizona, they beat Utah State 78-66. The overreaction of that win. People are also going to look at those final scores. Duke versus TCU. That was an 81-58 final score. Duke didn't look comfortable in that game until late. So definitely another one that you want to avoid, taking Duke laying all the points, in my opinion. And then UConn beat UCLA 73-53. So I do think UConn is a big public favorite. People love betting them. Now, I also want you guys to look at experience and guard play out there, like in Michigan State and Tennessee. They have the guards that can take over here in March. And that's definitely one of those angles you want to look at. Now, lower totals. There's more variance out there and there's fewer possessions, meaning those underdogs do stay alive. So those are your betting angles I want you to look at when you're looking at the Sweet 16 board. I want to get back to my final card here. So the Sweet 16, and we're going to be live on Thursday before these games tip off. So we might have some more games to bet, but right now when I'm looking at these games, this is what I like initially. So we got Michigan State catching points versus UConn. I'm coming in on them plus the 1.5. They have the experience, and I do think UConn's such a public team out there. They were able to handle that adversity, getting into foul trouble early in their game. versus UCLA. But I do think in this one, Dan Hurley's team is going to struggle versus the Michigan State team led by head coach Tom Izzo. It's all about coaching for me. I think Tom Izzo has the coaching edge here for Michigan State, and he's going to find his way to get the win. You saw Michigan State take a 77-69 win over Louisville in the round of 32. I was really impressed with what we saw out of them. Jeremiah Fears was able to get 16 assists. It seemed like assist after assist. You saw Carr with 21 points and 10 rebounds. So I'm all in on Michigan State plus the 1.5. Will I be shocked if they move to a favorite role? Yes, absolutely, because you look at UConn, and I think the public will be coming in on UConn. With that being said, we might get better value for Michigan State on Thursday. Arkansas plus the 8.5. And this does give me a little bit of fear because with what I saw out of Arkansas, they could upset Arizona. And I've already told you guys, Arizona, I have taking on Houston in the national championship game, and Arizona getting the win. I'm nervous about this, and I'm thinking of hedging out my national championship bet because Arkansas, I think, has the ability to pull off the upset. I'm grabbing them plus the 8.5 here versus Arizona. I'm not sure if they completely win it straight up, but I do think they keep it tight. I think this will come down to a buzzer beater, and it gives me a lot of angst here when I have Arizona to take everything. As for an under that I'm liking, it's Texas versus Purdue. That total 148.5. I already told you guys I love Texas plus the 6.5, and I like this one to stay under that total 148. I think we're going to see some more half court action, more discipline out there. And I do think Purdue will set the tone, and this one stays under. So these aren't chaos spots, you guys. These are number spots that we want to play on. Now, when we look at the MLB, I got MLB futures for you guys. I'm rolling with the Braves to take the NL East. It's coming in at plus 280 currently. They're still one of the best teams in baseball, and you look at this team, they have the power, they have the depth, and they have the consistency out there. Everything you need over 162 games. More than anything else, in my opinion. So I'll take the Braves to take the NL East at plus 280. As for the NHL tonight, you guys, we've only got one game on deck. We talked about at the start of the show, looking at these teams that are sitting right on the bubble, fighting for that wild card spot. The Ottawa Senators are in that situation. Now, tonight they're taking on the New York Rangers, and we're seeing the Senators as the favorite. I look at this game. The Senators are 4 points out of that wild card spot. That last wild card spot held by the Islanders. James Reimer will be between the pipes tonight. Now, I was hoping for Allmark, but this is the first night of a back-to-back for the Ottawa Senators, and we do see them facing the Detroit Red Wings tomorrow. So the Ottawa Senators are 6th in the Atlantic. Detroit is 5th in the Atlantic. So they're saving their best goaltender for tomorrow. But James Reimer has okay numbers. He's got a 2.44 goals against average and an 884 save percentage. His last time that he faced the New York Rangers was when he was the goaltender for the San Jose Sharks. And in that matchup, he stopped 41 of 42 shots on his goal. So he only allowed one goal the last time he faced them. Now, this was a couple of years ago. So we'll see if James Reimer can have the same sort of success here versus the New York Rangers. I'm not liking the way the Rangers are looking as of late. This team is struggling, sitting bottom of their division. Now, Igor is between the pipes for the New York Rangers. He's got fantastic numbers on the season. Mika Zibanejad here for the Rangers is facing his former team in the Ottawa Senators, so you've got a revenge angle. But I think what you look at in this one is your first period. You look at to stay under 1.5 goals. That's coming in at minus 110. Look for James Reimer to do enough in the first period and for Igor to come out nice and strong and for us to have, I would expect this to be scoreless going into the second. Now, as we go into that second period, scoreless, if it plays out the way I'm expecting, or even if we have one goal, we're going to see that total of 5.5 start to come down as time goes on. I do think this one has the opportunity of finishing 3-2. I do think the Ottawa Senators have every ability of getting the win. The problem going into it is they're too juiced on the money line. So I always talk about the live betting market. If you do see the Rangers go up first, if they're the first team to score, I don't mind coming back in on the Ottawa Senators. This is a team that needs the win. They're the first night of a back-to-back. The Rangers are coming off a game. So the second night of back-to-back is going to be an interesting one. So in the NBA, my last one for the day for you guys is the Miami Heat. Miami Heat are taking on the San Antonio Spurs. And the Heat, they desperately need the win. They're coming in straight up tonight on the money line at plus 164. We've seen the lines very fluid in this game today. They were a 5.5-point dog at the start of the morning. It moved quickly to 5 and then quickly to 4.5. I like them straight up on the money line. The Heat need this win. This is a team that has the ability to bounce back, especially off some embarrassing losses. Now, they're the 9th seed in the East. They have the edge in transition here over the Spurs as well. They're 1 game ahead of the Hornets. They're half a game behind the Orlando Magic, 1 game behind the 7 and 6 seeds in the Hawks and the 76ers, and 1.5 behind the 5th seed in the Toronto Raptors. So I'm grabbing the Miami Heat at plus 162. Just to touch on the Toronto Raptors, I would look at Scotty Barnes tonight for his rebound prop as he takes on the Utah Jazz. Now, I think he has every ability of getting double-digit rebounds. His prop tonight is 7.5. Love it to the over 7.5. And I don't mind a sprinkle on laddering him up. He's had success in his career versus the Utah Jazz in that rebound department. And I do think Toronto, off an embarrassing loss last night, they need a big bounce back. They need to win, and they need to cover that spread of 12.5. So look for a strong performance out of the Toronto Raptors as they get things right, but led by Scotty Barnes out there. But you guys, that's going to do it for today's episode of Madden on the Line. A big thanks to Jo Lisi for joining us today. Make sure you check him out over on SportsGrid. The Sweet 16 is where the tournament shifts. Less chaos, sharper lines, and real opportunities for bettors who have discipline. Don't chase the madness, you guys. Follow the numbers. I'm Jo Madden. Thanks for watching Madden on the Line, presented by Crosscheck Media and Biz Talk TV today. We'll see you here next time. Bye, you guys.